let's get to third and goal. We got the Vikings. Not the team I think any of you expected us to talk about today, but they're in a weird spot because I believe they're 3-3 right now. So they're 500. They just came off a win against the Panthers, who are, I mean, they've had their ups and downs this season. The Panthers are a good team. They beat the Panthers in overtime. Kirk Cousins, 33 of 48, 373 yards, 3 touchdowns. Connor, what do you make of the Vikings? What do you make of Kirk Cousins?
Kirk Cousins is always going to be Kirk Cousins. I mean, he's not flashy. He's not big play. He's the definition of just a clock management field general quarterback. Dalvin Cook obviously is, the big statement piece of that team when he's healthy. He's been in and out this year. They're solid. They're in the NFC North, which we know has been very weird this year. I mean, they're decent enough to do well in the NFC North. I would have said, hey, maybe the Vikings have something if I hadn't looked at their next 5 opponents. I'm like, hey, maybe they do something here. And then I looked at their schedule, their next 5 games in order, or at least what I found. Cowboys, Ravens, Chargers, Packers, Niners. I have a tough time saying they win any of those games at all. I can't see them doing it. I don't think this ends well for the Vikings. Other games that they play, they get the Packers 2 more times. They haven't played the Packers yet. They play the Rams and they play the Bears twice later in the season. And the Bears don't look completely awful. And especially when your offense
Bears defense
runs around. Yeah, especially your offense runs around Dalvin Cook, and then you kind of throw Thielen, Jefferson, and a few other guys in there. The Bears defense is built to stop the run. Yeah, Justin Jefferson can hurt you a little bit, but if they shut down Dalvin Cook is not Derrick Henry at all by any means. He's a great running back, but he's not going to brutalize you for an entire game. He can make some runs. He's going to tire you out, but that Bears defense is built to stop the run in the front. I would have been like, hey, like I said, Vikings would have had something if I hadn't looked at their schedule. Because with that schedule coming up, if they eke out a win against the Niners, I'd be surprised. I think they probably lose their next 5 straight, and then we're looking at a team with 3 wins instead of maybe 6 or 7 wins. So, yeah, they're a solid team in the NFC North, but when you go out of division for your next 3 games, the next 4 of your next 5 games are not in your division, and your one in-division game is against the best team in your division, you're probably not going to do super hot.
Yeah, I mean, the Vikings have another thing going against them. They have 4 primetime games coming up. Cowboys in Week 8 is a Sunday night game. Let's see. I just had it. The Steelers in Week 14 is a Thursday night game. The Bears in Week 15 is a Monday night game. And the Packers, the second time around, is a Sunday night game. So
we all know what Kirk Cousins does in primetime games.
Exactly. We know how he is. The Vikings are talented, and I think they're well coached. I think Mike Zimmer is a good coach. They've got Dalvin Cook, like you said. They've got Justin Jefferson, legit receiver. Adam Thielen. I mean, we all know what he does. What he brings to the table. I think their tight end, Irv Smith, is pretty good. I think their defense, not great, also isn't the worst defense. They're kind of middling, I think. Yeah, so the issue the Vikings have is Kirk Cousins. I can't name a quarterback in the league more overpaid than Kirk Cousins. I think he ranks, if you give me a second, I think he ranks top 8 in the league as far as pay goes. And he's not worth that. I watched the Vikings-Panthers game, and there is nothing Sorry. There is nothing but checkdowns and little dump offs to receivers. This guy does not take chances. And it's great that he's safe, but you know who else is safe? Alex Smith. And he lost his job to Patrick Mahomes. I don't think he gets enough credit. Yeah, he's number 8 as far as pay goes. He's got $33 million. I stand corrected. The most overpaid quarterback in the league is Jared Goff, who's number 7. So, there you go. There's the list, 1 and 2. He infuriates me because there are times where Kirk Cousins plays, and you're like, oh, Kirk Cousins, look at him. And I think he's capable of throwing the deep ball. I think he's capable of throwing it 20-plus yards downfield. He just doesn't do it. The guy is so safe with the football. It's like he's constantly playing for his job. Who is the Vikings' backup? Who is scaring him so much that he's playing for his job right now? I mean, I know they're not going to extend him, but guess what, buddy? Whether you throw the 40-yard interception or the 4-yard check down, you're not keeping your job either way. They're going to move off of you. I think this is his last year under contract. He's just so frustrating because it's just dump off. If it's not there, he gets panicky, dumps it off, gives it to Dalvin Cook, let him do something. Remember when I was talking about Baker a couple weeks ago and Joe Burrow, and I said that you just give it to your playmakers and let them make plays. That's what their jobs are. Baker's job is to just get it to Jarvis Landry, get it to Odell Beckham, get it to Chubb, Hunt, Austin Hooper, David Njoku, get it to those guys, let them make plays. I would rather have Baker Mayfield right now, who, on a side note, the hate is overblown on Baker Mayfield. But I would rather have Baker Mayfield right now than Kirk Cousins. Because is Kirk Cousins probably the safer bet? Yeah. And is Kirk Cousins going to throw a lot of picks? No. Kirk Cousins is going to maintain a lot of safety with the football. He's not going to turn it over a ton. But do you know how many times in that game it was 3rd and 18 and he dropped it off to the 4-yard out route? Do you know how frustrating that is to watch as a fan? Do you know how frustrating that is to teammates? And there were images of Justin Jefferson getting irritated because he's open. He's open 15 yards down the field and he's not getting the ball because a defender flashed by his face and Kirk doesn't have the confidence to beat one guy with his throw. So,
oh, trust me, it hurts my fantasy team too.
Yeah,
seeing that
Baker Mayfield and Joe Burrow and Derek Carr and all these guys in that same mold of game manager. They're just there to make sure that they get the ball out to the real playmakers on the team. All these guys take chances with the football. Baker Mayfield makes some stupid plays. But you know what? He's also trying to make something happen. And yeah, he's got to tone it down a little bit. He's got a bit of a fumbling problem. He can't hold on to the ball as soon as he rolls outside the pocket. But he's trying to make something happen, and you got to applaud him for that. I'd rather have that than a guy that's going to just throw it out of bounds. Because the first route he saw wasn't there. The guy that's going to just dump it off to the running back every single play. No, it could be 3rd and 63 yards, and it's going to be a 2-yard dump off to Dalvin Cook. It's just so frustrating. Take some chances. Get the ball out. You have guys. Justin Jefferson can win a contested catch. Adam Thielen can win a contested catch. It's not like you have no talent at receiver, so if you throw it in tight windows, they're not going to get it. They have talent. And this game shouldn't have gone to overtime. The Panthers had some real issues with drops this game. I know Sam Darnold didn't play his best, but the receivers did not help him out at all. I mean, how many drops did DJ Moore have in that game? Had to be at least 3 or 4. The guys couldn't catch Robbie Anderson had two drops at least. So they shouldn't have won that game. It shouldn't have even gone to overtime. But this is the situation the Vikings find themselves in. This is what happens when you give a guy that didn't deserve it a 3-year, $30 million contract. And I know I'm talking big as if who does deserve it? Who's better than Kirk Cousins out there right now that would be available? Look, I don't know. But if you keep Kirk Cousins on your team for that salary, you're just going to be running in place for the next 5, 6, 7 years. Because that's just what happens. That's just what happens. He's too safe, and it's so frustrating and so irritating to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not. I don't think anyone's ever looked at Kirk Cousins, even when he was in Washington, and been like, "This guy's gonna get us somewhere," right? Like he's always been like that. He was always Alex Smith 2.0 every step of his career. That's what happened. It's been safe. It's been checkdowns. It's been, you know, oh, I'm going to get us down there, but, if I have to take a shot, I'm probably not going to do it. And it worked incredibly well when you had, Kyle Rudolph and, Diggs and all these guys who were fine with taking these, 10-yard ins, 10-yard outs, quick slants, like all this other stuff. But you have Justin Jefferson, who's a legitimate deep threat wide receiver, who's going to win pretty much every contested ball you throw up to him. And he's just standing there 10, 15, 20 yards down the field wide open because he's faster than everyone else and his routes are better than most corners can cover. And Kirk Cousins is just that guy who's like, yeah, well, you're there, but you know what? Dalvin Cook's wide open 3 yards down the field, and if Dalvin Cook ends up getting me 7 or 8, I'll take that on third down, and hopefully I'm within 6 yards of the markers. So the Vikings aren't competing for anything, so it's not like there's a huge pressure to get rid of Kirk Cousins, but at the same time, it's like, well, if you get more talent on this team, which offensively is pretty talented and defensively isn't awful, at least try and compete for the top of the North with the Packers, get someone else in there, and be like, hey, let's make a run for the NFC North. You're probably not playing for a deep playoff push yet, but if you get a quarterback that is willing to take some risks, at least maybe you can knock off the Packers a couple times in the next few years, right? I mean, that'd be the biggest thing for me if I'm Mike Zimmer. So why not? Why not give it a shot, right? That NFC North is only getting better. I get it. The Lions are the Lions. The Bears with Justin Fields don't look terrible. Aaron Rodgers is going to be Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. So why not at least give it a shot? The only problem is they always finish middle of the pack, never have a quarterback-worthy draft pick that's in the first round. So you kind of have to wait and see. And unfortunately, there's no one coming out of college in the next season and a half, 2 seasons. That's, anyone the Vikings might want to go get. But who knows? I mean, Kirk Cousins isn't the guy that's going to get you anywhere. He's also not the guy who's going to get you at the bottom of the NFL. So it's kind of, where does Mike Zimmer and the Vikings organization want to be for the next 3 years?
Yeah, so I just checked it out, and the Kirk Cousins currently averages 7.4 yards per attempt. Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow, Derek Carr, all three we would consider game managers, kind of just give it to their guys. All north of 8 yards per attempt. I think the lowest is Baker Mayfield at 8.4. So that's a full yard more than Kirk Cousins. He does nothing but drop it down. And like you said, the Vikings are gonna run in place mainly because they never have a good draft pick. Never. This past year, it looks like they were due to have the 14th pick and traded it to the New York Jets, who ended up getting Elijah Vera Tucker. Very next pick was Mac Jones. Mac Jones is averaging 7 yards per attempt right now, which I know is lower than Kirk Cousins. He's also a rookie on a pretty not talented offense. The offense doesn't have any guys that'll, beat you deep. Who is the Vikings drafted a backup quarterback? Was it Jacob? Do they have Jacob Eason, or is that
Eason? Yeah,
or is that the Colts?
No,
he might be on the Colts. Let's double check that. Sean Mannion is their backup QB. So maybe I got that one wrong. Let's see. I thought they drafted a guy. Jacob Eason is on the Colts. No. He's on the Seahawks. What? I thought he was on the Colts. He was drafted by the Colts in the 4th round. But yeah, it's maddening to watch because it's the same thing every time. And you're never going to get more with Kirk Cousins. And if the Vikings are satisfied with finishing in that middle ground, maybe they scrape into the playoffs. That's fine. But like you said, I mean, you look at their next couple of matchups, and they're always going to have the worst quarterback. Like the Cowboys, you'd rather have Dak. Let's see. The Ravens, I mean, it's no brainer you'd rather have Lamar. Chargers, no brainer you'd rather have Justin Herbert. Packers, Rodgers, I mean, come on. 49ers, Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo has been to a Super Bowl. He's been to a Super Bowl. And that has to speak for something, so I'd rather probably have Jimmy. Jared Goff, the two most overpaid quarterbacks in the league. The Steelers with Big Ben, there was a time where it was a no-brainer. Big Ben now, he's not great. He's not mobile. Bears, I'd rather have Justin Fields for the future. Rams, Matt Stafford, not even close. And then Packers and Bears again. So you're always outmatched at the quarterback position. We look at their past couple games. The Bengals, week 1, I'd rather have Burrow. The Cardinals, week 2, I'd rather have Kyler. Seahawks, week 3, I'd rather have Russell Wilson. Browns, week 4, I'd rather have Baker. Panthers, week 6, I'd rather have Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold looks good, yeah.
So that means that there are 1, 2 teams, maybe the Niners, so maybe 3, that you'll have the better quarterback against across a 17-game season. What do you want to do, Vikings? Do you want to just run in place, or do you want to move forward for something? All right, I think we've done our best to kick the shit out of Kirk Cousins here.